This is 1.1 notes, and we will be talking about polynomials. Make sure everything you see on the screen goes into your notes. That is the rule. Including the essential question. Our question today is, how do we evaluate and classify polynomials? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Pause this video, rewind it at any time if I'm moving too fast. What is a polynomial? So a polynomial is simply an expression that has more than two terms or several terms. So you can see we have an expression here with several terms. Terms are separated by addition and subtraction signs. So you can see we have some addition and subtraction signs, which means each of these individual little expressions here, I guess, if you will, are called terms. So this certain polynomial has 5 terms. So that's what a term is. What is a monomial? So each of these are monomials. Mono means one, right? So each of these are one term, right? 3x to the 4th power is one term. That is called a monomial. A binomial means a two-termed expression. So for example, x minus 3 is a binomial. One term, two terms. Remember, it's separated by subtraction sign, right? So that makes it two terms. That's a binomial. The key word is bi. Bi means two. That's a binomial. And I bet you could probably guess what a trinomial is. Tri means three. So a trinomial is a three-termed expression. For example, x squared plus 7x minus 10 is a trinomial, three-termed expression. Standard form. Always write a polynomial in descending order of powers, biggest to smallest. So in standard form, we want to write a polynomial in descending order of powers, meaning highest exponents come first. So this certain polynomial right here, 4x to the 3rd power, is going to be listed first. Why? Because 3 is its exponent. It's the highest exponent of any of the other terms. We call that a degree. Its degree is higher than any of the other monomials. Therefore, it's listed first. You can see x squared will come next. Why? Because this degree is second degree, so that would come next. Negative 5x would come next. That's actually negative 5x to the 1st power. We just don't write the 1, so this would be considered a first degree. And negative 6 is what we call a constant. And that number just by itself, we always put that at the very end. Notice how there's no variable. There's no actual degree to it. The leading coefficient is the coefficient that is attached to the highest degree. So in the beginning here, this monomial was the highest degree. The leading coefficient would be 4. Classify polynomials. So here's how we classify polynomials. So make sure, again, you're copying all this down in your notes. All of it needs to be in your notes. Classify the polynomial by its degree and its term. Then state the leading coefficient. That's 3 things we need to do here. So for this first one here, the degree is the highest degree. So the degree of this first monomial here is a second degree monomial. This one right here is a third degree monomial. So this is not in order. If we were to write this in order, it would be in correct standard form. It would be negative 4x cubed plus 7x squared. So this means that this is a third degree polynomial. Next question that it asks us is, says to classify it by its degree, third degree, and its term. So this is a two-termed expression. So we call that a binomial, 2 terms. And then state the leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient is simply the coefficient that's in front of the highest degree, which would mean that is negative 4 would be the leading coefficient. Let's look at the next one here, this one. Let's write it in standard form. So 4x squared needs to be written first. 2, that's the highest degree, minus 6x, that's first degree, and then plus 5. The constant number always goes last. This is going to be a second degree, excuse me. So this is second degree. Why? Because that's the highest exponent, right, of any of the terms. This is going to be a trinomial because it has 3 terms, right? 1, 2, 3. That, and then lastly, state the leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient is 4. Last one, 7x to the 5th power. Well, that's a monomial, so this is a 5th degree because that's the exponent. What kind of term? Classify it by term, so that means it's a monomial because there's only one term. And the leading coefficient is 7. That's how you would answer those questions for that one. Let's keep on going. Let's talk about standard form, which you've already kind of talked about, but let's review it again. Make sure this gets into your notes. This is the original polynomial. Let's write it in standard form. First, you should notice that there are 4 terms in this expression. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one has the highest degree? Hopefully you are thinking negative x to the 3rd power. Which one would have the next highest degree? Hopefully you are thinking plus 7x squared. You would be right. And of the 2 remaining, which one is the next highest degree? You should be thinking plus 12x because that's first degree. Remember, that's first degree. We just don't write the 1. And then the constant of plus 2 always goes last. It's as simple as that. That's how we write polynomials in standard form. Evaluating polynomials just means to substitute. So we are given a polynomial here, x minus 2 squared, minus 2x, if x equals negative 3. So they're saying x is equal to negative 3. So what that means is we're going to take negative 3 and we're going to substitute it into the expression everywhere we see x. That's called evaluating. So let's do that by showing our substitution. So negative 3 minus 2, it's taking the place of x squared, minus 2 times negative 3. Now let's use our order of operations. So we have some parentheses here, so we need to do the work inside of parentheses. So negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5 squared. And we can go ahead and multiply these together here because that's not going to affect the original expression. So negative 2 times negative 3 is going to give us positive 6. Let's keep going. Let's go ahead and square this term. So negative 5 squared means negative 5 times negative 5, which is 25. And then we must add 6, which is equal to 31. So this expression, when x is equal to negative 3, the value of the expression is 31. We have evaluated that polynomial when x is equal to negative 3. Let's work on some word problems. You do not have to write this word problem into your notes. Okay, but please follow along and understand what we are doing in the word problem. Any work I do on the screen should go in your notes. A skyrocket is launched from a 6-foot high platform with an initial speed of 200 feet per second. And that's what these two values represent in that equation. The polynomial negative 16t squared plus 200t plus 6 gives the height in feet that the skyrocket will rise in t seconds. How high will the rocket rise if it has a 5-second fuse? Okay, so t seconds, right? How high will the skyrocket rise in t seconds? So 5-second fuse, we're going to go ahead and plug that value in for t because that represents time, and that's going to go ahead and tell us how high the rocket is going to be with a 5-second fuse. So negative 16 times 5 squared. 5 is just taking the place of t, plus 200 times 5, taking the place of t, plus 6. Let's go ahead and evaluate. So we need to always do exponents first. So 5 squared means 5 times 5, which is 25. So we have negative 16 times 25 plus 200 times 5 plus 6. Let's take out our calculator, and that's going to help us calculate some of these. So let's see, negative 16 times 25 gives us negative 400. So negative 400. 200 times 5 is 1,000. So plus 1,000 and then plus 6. Negative 400 plus 1,000 is 600. Plus 6 is 606. So we should write our answer in a sentence. We're going to say the rocket will be, and you guys can write this. I'm not going to write that on the screen. We should say the rocket will be 606 feet in the air with a 5-second fuse. Last example we'll do here, and then we'll finish off with some definitions. Again, you do not need to write this whole word problem into your notes. If you do want some portion of it, feel free to abbreviate it. Lisa wants to measure the depth of an empty well. She drops a ball from a height of 3 feet into the well and measures how long it takes for it to hit the bottom. She uses a stopwatch to measure the time to measure the time it takes for the ball to hit the bottom. The polynomial right here gives the height of the ball after t seconds, where 0 is the initial speed. There's your b value. That's always your initial speed. And 3 is the initial height, and this is your initial height after the ball is dropped. Her stopwatch measured 2.2 seconds. How deep is the well? Okay, so we need to plug in 2.2 seconds in for t, which is time. And what that's going to do is tell us the depth of the well. So it's simply just plugging in and calculating. So we have negative 16 times 2.2 squared plus 0 times 2.2 plus 3. So notice we just plugged in 2.2 for t. So let's go ahead and calculate this. We're going to need to square 2.2. So 2.2 and then squared gives us 4.84. So negative 16 times 4.84. Remember, 0 times anything is 0. So that just basically is just going to cancel out, wipe out. We don't even need to write that. And then we can write plus 3. Remember, we need to multiply first before we add. So let's go ahead and multiply those values together. So times 16 negative. And that gives me negative 77.44. And then we need to add 3. So let's go back to our calculator and add 3. And that gives us negative 74.44. And the reason why we get a negative value is because the ball is being dropped, right? So that represents a negative value. If we're dropping it, negative elevation means that the ball is dropping, it's not going up. So you should write a complete sentence that says, you guys can write it, the ball dropped 74.44 feet when her stopwatch measured 2.2 seconds. Okay, we have some definitions that you guys need to include into your notes. You will be tested on these, so make sure that you have these down and you understand them. If you want me to go over those, please let me know in class, and I'll be happy to further explain any of these definitions. Pause and rewind as you need. A lot of these definitions I've already gone over in the notes for today. So make sure that you just have them listed in your notes. You guys should be using your highlighters to highlight the words so they pop out. When we have quizzes and tests, you're going to need to know these definitions.